Welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss, and each weekday we'll share enthusiasm for what's possible and dive into the stories of Iowans living their dream lives right here in the heartland. Whether you're chasing a big goal or just looking for a little inspiration, we've got you covered. Let's change the world together. This is Living the Dream Iowa Life. Let's go. Heyo, welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Banana Nuss. That's right. You heard that here first. Welcome. So excited to be here, as always, welcoming myself to my own show. Here we go. Why do I say that? Today we're going to talk more about a book that I kind of breached the topic on, but did not get all the way into because I just didn't quite have time, or I got distracted. I don't even remember. Plus, it wasn't Tuesday, y'all, so we can't be reviewing books just on any given Friday. But I had finished the book and I was so excited to bring it here. So I talked a little bit about this book right here. If you're on video, Appetites, which that's backwards, but this is what it looks like, by Carolyn Knapp. And it's interesting because it says why women want, and then it goes into how this is the smartest anorexia memoir ever written and a fascinating journey alongside the torturous pathways of female desire. Oof. Yeah, that's pretty much what it gets into. And in the beginning I thought, had a pretty severe eating disorder that kind of took over my life for a little bit of time, and what unknowingly for a longer amount of time than I was willing to acknowledge. I don't think that we quite grasp how disordered our eating is just in general culture norms. The amount of time that I'm working at the coffee shop and people come in and say, oh, I shouldn't, and not just females, males, everyone. Oh, I shouldn't. Like, no, you probably should, or you can, or you could, you definitely could. And if this is something that you want, like, let's go. And maybe, maybe you are at that point. I shouldn't, I can't, I shan't, I wa'n't, whatever. Maybe you are in that place where you need to not. But the majority of people can and should, and I don't know. I think there's so much related to diet culture that we don't understand or pay attention to, and whether or not we're willing to embrace that, whether or not we think that that's an issue, it is, and I think it's pretty deeply rooted in just how we live in this country. Now, I will say there's some toxicity to the throw it all away, I love my body. Like, we have to find a healthy balance of what that looks like, where we do trust and listen to our instincts, but we also understand that food is fuel and it needs to be used as that. And yes, once in a while, do we just want a ding dang dong burger? Sure. Once in a while, do we just want to get that extra large caramel drizzled whipped cream wonderful drink along with the wonderful amazing pastry? Yeah, we do. And it's all about balance, right? We can't throw overboard the diet. And I think this is the struggling thing. It's not diet, right? It's just like, how do we eat to maintain our bodies? How do we eat to make sure that we're getting the proper fuel for our brains, for our bodies, everything? How do we eat in that way? And I don't think that diet culture has done a lot to advance that. I definitely think a lot of it has caused more disordered eating than good. And the problem with that, the bigger problem, is the yo-yoing. And I've seen so many people yo-yo 20 pounds. And for me, and I write about this in the second book, for me, it really was the mental capacity, that the thought about my body, the look of it, the food, the structure, the restriction, the amount of energy that I put into all of that wasted so much mental energy that I could have been using for other things. And now I am. But I remember realizing this is taking up everything. Everything that I am is dissolved and wound up in how my body presents to the world. Everything, every extra thought is going into that. And more than anything, I don't want to pass that down to my girls. And more than anything, I certainly don't want to keep wasting my thoughts on this anymore. I want to use my brain for good. I want to use my brain to build. I want to use my brain to write. I want to use my brain to create movements, to write words. I want to use my brain. I don't want to waste my mind on whether or not I look good in a swimming suit. I don't want to waste my energy on whether or not I am the most fit version of myself. Like, I want to be in a good, healthy state where I move my body, push myself to move that body, to feel good in my body, and that can just eat freely. Not be controlled by one decision or another. Not say, I had that drizzly, whippy coffee this morning. Guess the day is a waste. Guess I just eat junk the rest of the day. No, just have the drizzly, wonderful coffee. And then, like, grand scheme, what does it look like the majority of the time? And, focusing on that majority instead of the kind of minority, the smaller times for when I'm eating or not eating right. Like, that doesn't happen very often. And when it does, I don't need to shame myself into oblivion because I wanted something with carbs and sugar and it was wonderful, right? Like, I just need to get away from the guilt of that and create that freedom for my girls as well. So as we're going through Appetites and reading this, it is about so much more. And I do love The Smartest Anorexia Memoir, but I fear that this is going to stop people from reading it. What I will say is whether you are anorexic, whether you are bulimic or would mark yourself as someone who has disordered eating, I would say if you have ever been on a diet, ever utilized systems of restriction here and there, yo-yoed in and out of diets, there's probably some disordered eating and some things that need to heal around that. And this book is such a beautiful piece, talking about all of those things, talking about the roots of those things, really just the roots of female power and desire and what we desire and why that is such a kind of a conflicting ideology in where we are right now. And not that this is, Hannah's a feminist and she's like, yeah, I'm all for women. I'm raising two very powerful women. I myself am a powerful woman. I think sometimes we go to extremes with feminism, but what I will say is there's a lot in our culture that is deeply entrenched in how we grow up believing we can exist. And, the truth of the matter is we can exist pretty much however we want. But depending on our interpretation of that, and she goes into the root of the paternal-maternal relationships and dives into a little bit of that background as well in this book. And just kind of all the pieces that would have fed into this idea that our desire as women is something that we should kind of cautiously tiptoe around, is something that we shouldn't trust, is something that is scary, is unknown, should be feared, should be, I don't know, like avoided more than anything. And, I have seen so many women that I have worked with over the past couple of years sort of tiptoe around this desire. Or what does that look like a lot of times? Um, it looks like kind of putting your toe in halfway and then completely talking down this audacious desire to be successful. Um, and that kind of sounds like, yeah, I mean, I did it. I bought the thing. Now if it doesn't work out, that's okay. I'm not that attached to it. Like, no, let's remove that. Let's keep that desire for this to be what we want it to be. Let's keep that desire and that want. For this thing, I think oftentimes we're just throwing that away because we believe that is what it means to be a good kind of a woman, desireless woman, right? Like, throw this away. It's okay if it's not everything. I really am just happy. And I I say that all the time. Like, I cannot stress how grateful I am for my life, for my relationships, for my support, for my family, for where I'm at in life. This is a much different place than where I was at when I started this work. I was the exact opposite. Um, and I still desire things. I still want things. Like, I am very satisfied with where I am. And if everything stopped today, I would look at what I have done and I would say, good work, friend. Great job. You did it. Not only did you dream bigger for your life, you set a path for others to do that as well. You didn't just run all the way all by yourself and go, okay, bye. Hope y'all can keep up. You were like, you know what? You can keep up. But I don't want you to have to keep up in the same way that I did. Like, why can't we kind of run together? And I went back and I created those roads and I helped people do the things, like set a pathway for the things that they desired so that they would go and do them. So they believed in themselves, so that spark would start somewhere. And I would say to myself, you planted some seeds. You absolutely did. And we don't know, right? Like, what those seeds are going to be. We don't know what this work is ever going to turn out to do, to be. I know my work, like the heart and desire behind everything that I do, is just to see people doing their dreams and getting back to that truth that life really is beautiful, if not just that you woke up and took a breath today. And I think Caroline's book does such a great job diving into this idea that women wanting is sort of a taboo subject. Should we want? Should we push? Should we drive and desire? And from the root of your relationship with that really is a lot of the motherly example that you had in the household, also what your father said to you. What did women wanting look like? And I think in her example, her mother really was a martyr, really was the stay at home, gave up everything to do this. And did she want that? No. Not really. And I think that created a really tough relationship for this want, for this desire for Caroline. And that led to, obviously, the eating disorders and this like feeling of control around eating. And she talks about, just needing to own that piece. And I do think in the deep seeds of that desire for control really is that desire for want, is that desire for doing the things that we want to do. And I don't know. I mean, the burying of that, the struggle of that, I think she just so poetically puts all of those pieces together. And this is a beautiful piece about women's empowerment, about kind of the why behind the want. This is not just a piece about anorexia and eating disorders. This really is a piece about why women want the things that they want, and maybe why they didn't. And eating disorders are often a piece of that. But I do think for me, it's about the shrinking, right? With eating, with dieting, with this obsession about our looks and this need to present this like perfect woman who has no flaws, is this feeling of shrinking, this feeling of disappearing of self. Like we're supposed to want fake boobs and fake lips and perfect skin and no wrinkles, and we're supposed to present this perfectly polished person who has never experienced the world. And one of my favorite things about my just gorgeous husband is that, oh man, he's going to be he's just going to keep getting better looking. And it's also something that I'm very jealous of, because his gray hair and wrinkles and like aging process makes him more seasoned and delicious and peppered and gorgeous. And the interpretation of mine is often just like, ugh, wrinkles, go get Botox, but don't tell anyone that you got it. Just like, don't age at all, because your aging is not seasoned or wisdomed or beautiful. It's not silver fox gorgeousness. It's aging, and it should be looked down on. I'm like, man, if I get a gray hair or another wrinkle and my wrinkles are so deeply entrenched into my skin, there are no vials of Botox that could take this forehead wrinkle out. But I will tell you, this is heritage. This wrinkle runs deep in the foreheads of all of my forefathers across many cemeteries in the state of Iowa and all the way back to Germany, and it's deep, okay? The depth of this is the wisdom that has been collected by my ancestors who came over here. This is wisdom passed down from generation to generation, and vials of Botox shall not shrink this wisdom. I find it funny because I was just editing a chapter in my book, and I talk about how I was not going to wait for my hair to turn gray to lead. And I do find that to be a funny, complex narrative about women and this need to show age to be seen as wise, but also this constant call from our culture to do the exact opposite, to not age, to not show your wisdom, to not be proud of the wisdom of wrinkles and gray hairs, to like renounce that completely and act as if you have remained untouched and yet you are wise. And I want my wisdom to show up in every smile wrinkle on my face. I promise you, the more smile wrinkles I have, the more thought wrinkles in my forehead deeply entrenched, the more that I have been thinking about complex subjects and putting my brain to work, the more that I have been smiling because I saw dreams come true. I witnessed it firsthand. And I don't want to usher that away with a needle. I want to see those deepen. I want to see life lived on my face and in my skin. I want to have scars, and I want to have conversations about those scars. And I want you to know the season came with wisdom. The wrinkles brought stories and projects and, wanting. Doesn't have to be complicated, and it certainly doesn't mean that we need to shrink in other areas of life. We can want and experience our fullness. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world. Do, do, do.